In 1982, when Vince McMahon took over the WWF from his father, he forever changed the wrestling industry. Originally, all the wrestling organizations were under a territory system, which meant that companies at that time would only have shows in their region. There was no competition for local television. After Vince McMahon bought the company from his father, his master plan was to make his company the premier wrestling show in the world. He wanted his show to be viewed from everyone, and in doing so, this would also eliminate all the competition and allow him to sign all the wrestlers from the other territories. Vince would go on to sign a deal with the USA Network, which would put WWF on national television. This was the key to becoming the flagship show because everyone had an opportunity to watch the show from around the country. Vince McMahon destroyed all of his competition, taking 30 to 40 companies out of business. He was the only one to adapt and change with the future. Throughout the 90s, McMahon only had one competitor, and that was of course WCW and Ted Turner. McMahon's brilliant storylines helped build huge stars in the Attitude Era, and he created must-watch television at that time. Eventually, Vince would even buy out WCW. Finally, he has been on top of the mountain for the last 20 years with no real competition in sight, until AEW changed all of that. AEW is attempting to take over the wrestling business, but it's going to be a difficult task to take down the empire Vince McMahon created. However, viewership of Raw and SmackDown are increasingly dropping. Both shows are currently generating around 2.2 million viewers. Many people are even blaming Vince McMahon, claiming that he is destroying the company without even realizing. People are questioning his booking decisions and everything he's doing with the company. Look at the Hell in a Cell match between The Fiend and Seth Rollins. That is a perfect example. Fans around the world think it's time for him to hang up the boots before he completely burns his company to the ground. So in today's video, we're going to look at an alternate timeline where Vince McMahon retires today right now. We're going to look at how this will affect WWE and the other wrestling promotions around the world for the next 4 years. Let's see what would happen if Vince McMahon was no longer a part of the WWE. Let's jump into 2019 in this other universe. The first thing to happen in this timeline is a statement from the WWE social media pages stating that there will be a huge groundbreaking announcement that will take place Monday, October 28th. They are going to emphasize that this will change the course of WWE and nothing will ever be the same again. Of course, everyone on Twitter and YouTube will assume it's another cheap tactic to generate some buzz and interest, but this would actually start differently. The show would start with Vince McMahon coming down to the ring by himself. He would definitely be crying because this is his greatest creation and walking away from it would be pretty tough. McMahon would cut a promo breaking kayfabe and talking about his great experiences and his wonderful time with the company. He would mention that he fully believes Stephanie McMahon and Triple H are capable of running the company by themselves. Shane would not get ownership because he doesn't want to run the company, and he also left a decade ago, so I wouldn't give him the entire thing. He would instead get a large portion of shares of stock. Vince would then talk about the great success of NXT and how impressed he's been with Triple H's work. He would say it's time for a new era and he's super excited for the future. The entire roster and employees would come out to the stage with Stephanie, Shane, and Triple H leading the way in front of them, thanking Vince McMahon for being the best boss ever, and even mentioning that the guys in the back created a little video package for him. Of course, this would be a great highlight reel of his moments on television, such as getting hit on the head from Stone Cold Steve Austin with the pan and his limousine blowing up. This video would end with McMahon crying even more and the fans starting a loud "Thank you Vince" chant. His last words would be, "The show must go on." I feel like he's always had that attitude, and these would be perfect words from such a hard worker like Vince. And after that, the show would go on with the regularly scheduled program for Raw. This is when we pretty much see a shift in the program that we are used to seeing. All those crappy storylines and those 3-minute jobbing matches are going to go away. Instead, Triple H will be focusing on the in-ring action and building simple yet effective storylines. Just imagine the NXT shows but on Raw and SmackDown with other superstars. Yes, I know it's a scary thought of how good the company can actually be, but before we can get to this change, there is one person holding back the company and is refusing to adapt to Triple H's style. That man is better known as Kevin Dunn. For those who don't know, Dunn is an executive producer who is the second man in charge after Vince McMahon. He is also just as bad as Vince when it comes to storylines and booking decisions. Many have also said he's extremely negative about pretty much everything. Therefore, him and Triple H would be butting heads for the rest of 2019 until Triple H finally decides to fire him. 2020 will be the year we really start to notice a difference and Triple H will implement all of his changes. One thing that I do want to mention about 2019 is that NXT will be viewed as a third brand and will be included in the upcoming drafts. NXT will also be traveling around the nation instead of just staying at Full Sail. I also want to mention some of the hottest feuds that will be taking place in this timeline. The first thing that would happen in 2019 is a Balor Club versus Undisputed Era match at War Games. At NXT a few nights ago, Balor turned heel. If Triple H was in charge of WWE, he would have a one-night only match where Balor gets his former partners to help him destroy the Undisputed Era at War Games. This Balor is not motivated to take down babyfaces. No, he's taking over NXT, which is what is rightfully his yard before anyone else. Undisputed Era would actually play somewhat the face roles in this feud. Another hot feud that will take place before the year ends is Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre for the Universal Championship. McIntyre would even go on to become the champion by the end of that year. Roman Reigns would get into a feud with The Fiend. Of course, Bray Wyatt would destroy Roman Reigns. Brock Lesnar would remain champion for the rest of the year. Also, expect the women to get proper and good storylines. Becky and Bayley will close out the year as champions. Bayley's actually doing a really great job as champion as a heel, and I think she should have a lengthy run. The ratings for the company have slightly increased by the end of the year, averaging about 2.5 million viewers a week. Hardcore fans are coming back and even casuals are impressed with the acrobatic moves and easy to follow storylines. To begin the new year of 2020, Triple H makes the announcement that the Royal Rumble match will feature 10 superstars from each Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. The Balor Club are pretty much done beating up dudes from NXT and they moved over to Raw to cause some havoc over there. They would essentially be the Evolution version of 2020. After attacking McIntyre, Balor would make it clear that he wants the Universal Championship. So, after a 5-month reign, McIntyre would lose his championship to Balor at the Royal Rumble. At this point, the Balor Club has all the gold on Monday Night Raw. In the Royal Rumble match, The Fiend would win for SmackDown after eliminating the last opponent, Tommaso Ciampa. That would be a great rub to show that NXT guys are as tough as Raw and SmackDown dudes. The Fiend would go on to become the WWE Champion at WrestleMania 36 after defeating Brock Lesnar. As for the Women's Championship, Shayna Baszler will win the Royal Rumble and challenge Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch. Also, she isn't the NXT Champion anymore because she dropped that championship to Candice LeRae, who is feuding with Io Shirai for that title. In NXT, we will see the demise of the Undisputed Era after losing to the Balor Club. All of them start to lose their championships. It starts with Matt Riddle beating Roderick Strong for the North American title. Then, Danny Burch and Oney Larkin become the tag team champions. Finally, Goldie returns home to Tommaso Ciampa. The Undisputed Era feel lost and confused. Moving into the summer of this year, and here are the hottest feuds for that. First off, Finn Balor and the Balor Club would continue to dominate. Balor would defeat the likes of Rey Mysterio, Kevin Owens, and Cedric Alexander throughout this year. Shayna Baszler is the Raw Women's Champion and she would feud with Charlotte and Becky Lynch on Raw. Sasha Banks would win the Women's Championship from Bayley after a triple threat match, which would cause tension between their friendship. Tommaso Ciampa would drop his championship to Dominik Dijakovic, or however you say his name, because he can't match his strength or heights. And The Fiend is clearly unstoppable after beating Braun Strowman, Sami Zayn, and The Miz. One final storyline that would happen this year is the Undisputed Era attacking the Balor Club, setting up a monster 4v4 Survivor Series rematch in the main event. Undisputed Era would officially move over to Raw, and this would be them getting their payback. That loss at War Games was literally the downfall of their career. This is also a nice way of introducing them to the Raw fans. They would win the match, and then Adam Cole would begin a feud with Finn Balor for the Universal Championship. At the end of that year, Balor would lose his championship to Adam Cole, who is a mega babyface at this time. That pretty much wraps up the storylines for this year, and let's start talking about some of the other things that will occur around this time. Raw and SmackDown will continue with the upward trend of the ratings. They're up to about 3 million consistent viewers a week. NXT is also starting to generate more views because they're at 1.2 million viewers. Along with the success of WWE, AEW is also gaining more exposure from fans because more people are enjoying wrestling again. They will be at around 1.7 million views for their weekly show. Triple H would then also introduce NXT Japan and NXT Canada as his new experiments. After the successful year in 2020, let's see how Triple H can top himself in 2021. The year is starting out strong with an NXT wrestler winning the Royal Rumble. It's none other than the Velveteen Dream, who wins it all and will be the one to challenge Dominic at WrestleMania. I think this would be the perfect time for NXT to be incorporated into WrestleMania. This means NXT will be featured at the Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, SummerSlam, and WrestleMania from now on. We will still see takeovers and exclusive Raw and SmackDown pay-per-views. Velveteen Dream would become the champion. For Raw, Adam Cole will defeat heel Roman Reigns to retain his championship at WrestleMania. The Fiend would lose his championship to Aleister Black, who they have been building up for an entire 18 months on SmackDown. This would be the Fiend's first loss, and it would be absolutely worth it because now Aleister Black is one of the biggest stars. Finally, Becky Lynch will defend the Raw Women's Championship that she got back from Shayna. It's going to be in the main event against the returning Ronda Rousey, who won the Royal Rumble. This is the match everyone wanted to originally see at WrestleMania 35, and of course, we didn't get it. Now, we are officially getting it, and it's going to be a good and slow build-up. Ronda Rousey would lose clean and tap out to Becky Lynch, showing that her win at Mania 35 was not a fluke. However, after the show, the UFC 4 Horsewomen would attack Becky Lynch. This would lead into a big brawl between the WWE and UFC 4 Horsewomen to end Mania. The UFC women would run away and be on the stage while Becky Lynch holds her championship high in the air. That will be the beginning of a feud between them for the year. Somehow, Triple H manages to give us yet again another phenomenal WrestleMania show. These Manias are similar to the old ones that gave us so much entertainment. Moving into the new year, there are a few hot storylines that will take place. First off, Ricochet will win the Money in the Bank briefcase. He definitely deserves it, and he would make for a great future champion. Heel Seth Rollins would be back and is feuding with Aleister Black over on SmackDown. Aleister would beat him and remain as champion for the rest of the year. Black's run as champion is one of the best, and he feuds with people like Shinsuke Nakamura, Buddy Murphy, and Samoa Joe. It's truly entertaining and gives us many amazing wrestling matches. Ricochet informs Adam Cole that he will be cashing in the Money in the Bank at SummerSlam, and he's letting him know a few weeks in advance. At that match, when the referee is down, his group turns on him, costing him the match in an absolute shocker. Ricochet wasn't even up either, but he hits him with his finisher and becomes champion. The world is truly shocked. Why did the Undisputed Era turn on Adam Cole? And Adam Cole will be feuding with his former faction. The reason why they turned on him is because ever since becoming champion and kind of a good guy, he's forgotten all about them. So they kicked his ass. Undisputed Era would continue, but without Cole because he's too over as a face. Adam Cole would feud with them, and he eventually gets help from Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. At Survivor Series in a 3-on-3 match, we find out that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were the masterminds behind all of this. They are the newly formed Undisputed Era with Strong, Kyle, and Bobby. This is a new dominant force to be reckoned with on Raw, and they go wild. Sami Zayn even becomes the champion by defeating Ricochet by the end of the year for the Universal Championship. A final storyline is the main event of Survivor Series. the 4 horsewomen battle between the UFC and WWE women. In the end, the UFC squad would be victorious. Sasha, Becky, Charlotte, and Bayley are all already established, so I think the UFC women winning would benefit a lot more because they are new faces and the crowd needs to get used to them. Those are the hot storylines of the year. As for the ratings, they are averaging about 3.2 million views a week, and these are impressive numbers. NXT Canada is even doing pretty well because Canada has a lot of good wrestlers. I don't know why, but a lot of people do come from there. However, Triple H stopped NXT Japan because New Japan is pretty much dominating that market and it makes no sense. AEW is still alive and generating 2 million viewers a week. WWE and AEW are no longer at war because they are happy with their ratings and there's pretty much nothing else to argue about. Let those shows go on and be an alternative to each other. Alright, we are in the final year of this video, 2022. As you can see, so much has happened over the last 3 years. For the Universal Championship picture, we will have Sami Zayn feud with Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, and Adam Cole. In fact, before WrestleMania 38, he will defend his championship in an Elimination Chamber match against Cole, Gargano, Ciampa, Kevin Owens, and Ricochet. Yes, I'm aware that this would be the greatest chamber match of all time. The final 3 people in the match would be Gargano, Ciampa, and Sami Zayn. However, with the help of the Undisputed Era, Sami Zayn would retain his championship. At WrestleMania, we will see a match between Gargano, Ciampa, and Sami Zayn in a triple threat match. Johnny Gargano would win the match and become the Universal Champion. His new nickname would become Johnny Mania. On SmackDown, the Royal Rumble winner, Daniel Bryan, would challenge Aleister Black, but Daniel Bryan does not win and Aleister Black retains. Black would hold on to the title for a little bit longer. Cesaro would win the NXT Championship from Velveteen Dream at this Mania. Dream will move over to SmackDown and Cesaro will have a proper championship run on the Black and Gold brand. One more thing that happens this year is Andrade Cien Almas gets his name back as well as winning the Money in the Bank briefcase, and he becomes a champion after cashing it in on Aleister Black. He becomes one of the best champions in a while, and you all see why I think he is one of the best. From a booking standpoint, we would get a lot of crazy moments and focus on the youth. From a business standpoint, wrestling is the most popular it's been since the Ruthless Aggression era. The shows are averaging from 3.3 through 3.6 million viewers each week, which is really high. The product definitely becomes way more edgy, and the target demographics is from 13 through 30-year-olds. I honestly see Triple H giving us the rebirth of the Ruthless Aggression era. If you watch NXT, it's pretty much like that era resurrected, and I would not be against it. That's pretty much everything that would happen in this timeline. Let me just give you a really quick recap of everything that happens. Vince McMahon would retire in 2019. Triple H and Stephanie McMahon would have ownership of the company. Kevin Dunn would be fired after arguments with Hunter. NXT would become an official third brand and even be featured at the draft as well as the 4 big pay-per-views. WWE would get more edgy and kind of feel like the Ruthless Aggression era. Due to some epic storylines, the ratings would gradually increase. This would cause more people to watch wrestling again, and AEW would even get more viewers. The war between WWE and AEW would end. NXT Japan and NXT Canada would become a thing. Overall, wrestling would be 100 times better off without Vince McMahon running the show. And that is it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Pllana, and I'll see you all on the next video.
And I got this soul.